Good evening, I'm Merlin Tuttle, and we're back for another fun evening, this time talking about advice for young people. This is something that really interests and concerns me. First, I want to introduce the fact that my indispensable assistant, Teresa Nickta, joins me, and my equally invaluable wife, Paula, is here as well. Now, what do I have to say about young people? First of all, you're never too old to be curious. I know when you're really young, sometimes parents go crazy wondering what their child's getting into next because children are so curious. But unfortunately, in our society, most of us seem to think we have to lose most of our curiosity before we get very old. That's not very good. If you're a parent or a teacher, make every possible effort to encourage your children's curiosity. And if you're a child, don't be afraid to be curious. Ask questions, explore. That's how you find out what really interests you. Until you find out what really interests you, you're not going to know what you want to do with your life. I've often told young people, you can do anything you really want to do. You can grow up to do as a job, getting paid for it, what you thought people only got to do on vacation. If you're interested enough in something, you'll learn more than anybody else about it, and you'll be good at it, and you can find a job doing what it is that you're passionately interested in. I was passionately interested in nature, as were my parents. I was lucky. However, my parents didn't always want me to do exactly what I ended up doing. My mother gave me the initials MD because she was absolutely sure I was going to be a medical doctor. Well, nothing against medical doctors, but that didn't happen to fit my choice in life. My father had other ideas, but when I came up with things that I was passionately interested in, they encouraged my interest. They didn't try to discourage me and say, well, you'll get a job someday better if you're interested in this, or you'll be a better Christian if you're interested in this, or you'll be more popular if you're interested in this. Don't let friends, teachers, parents, anybody tell you what you should be interested in. Find something that's really interests you. Explore everything. Try all the options. At least all those that aren't dangerous. And eventually you'll find out what works for you. A lot of kids tell me that they would love to be a scientist, but they just don't think it's possible. Scientists have to be brilliant. I'm not smart enough. You know, I've never met a person hardly that wasn't smart enough to do what they're passionately interested in. The trouble is, so often, society, our parents, our teachers, our churches, our governments push us in given directions, making us feel like we're going to disappoint somebody or not be valuable if we don't take a certain course. Each of us has our own course, and we've got to find it on our own. I was interested in nature, but I didn't know what I really wanted to do until a scientist came to my 5th grade class and gave a program about his research in a tropical jungle in Central America. And I'll never forget how by the time he finished, I'm saying to myself, my God, you mean scientists actually get paid to go have fun and adventure? That's what I want to do. I didn't until later discover that it was actually bats in particular that I wanted to study, but I did decide when I was 9 years old in the 5th grade that I wanted to be a mammologist, a scientist who studied mammals. I actually flunked out of the 5th grade because I got so interested in learning about small mammals that I neglected my studies. Now, that's not something I recommend, but for teachers and parents, don't get too discouraged if a child isn't working well at what's been offered. there may be other options that will, where this child will actually be the genius. I've seen so many times kids that were forced into a wrong path, they're failing because they're not interested in it. In school, even when I got to college, I took a course in Spanish, and at the time I wasn't really very interested in Spanish. I took it and I got a D. I didn't want that on my transcript, so I took the course again. I barely got a C. Then I got a chance to go on an expedition to Uruguay, and I found out that it was going to be great fun to be the expedition interpreter, and I learned everything in a week that I hadn't been able to learn in 2 semesters. We can all learn what we're interested enough in, and if you're passionate about something, you can be good at it. And certainly if you're a parent or a teacher, that's your first job, is to help kids find what they can be passionately interested in. Don't tell them what they should be interested in. And when it comes time to seek employment, don't ever let people tell you that you aren't going to be employed if you take that path. Here's where you need to go if you want to be sure you get a job and get paid well. This changes every few years, and we can't forecast the future. Where jobs are great this year may be terrible next year. But if you do something you're passionately interested in, you're going to be so good at it that you'll find employment. I just about guarantee it. Now, let's take some questions. I'll be happy to answer them from children, parents, teachers, and I hope all of you will at some point look at my new resource on our website, Advice for Young People.
You can see the link in the caption for the video for that. Sydney says hello from Panama.
Ooh.
Hi, Sydney.
We can hear so many bats here at the farm tonight, she says.
Hey, you guys!
And Jonathan Hale says, keep up the good work. Pina, I don't know how to say your name. It looks like it's a pseudonym or something, but she says, I still have no idea what I want to do in life. I just try everything I possibly can and get paid doing it. Lisa,
Don't necessarily restrict yourself to what you're now able to get paid to do. Keep looking. It may be that there's something out there that you could get paid to do if you discovered it and got really interested in it. Don't just go where the current pay is right now, or you may miss something far more important that you'd rather do.
okay, Lisa Walter says, do you have any advice for people who are interested in bats but don't have a degree in biology? My background is in chemistry and chemical analysis, but it seems like the only field jobs available are those with a bachelor's in bio. Would I have to go back to school? I'm 51, not young.
Lisa, you're never too old to do things that are fun. Look at our video on our website under videos about citizen scientists. People are more and more joining scientists in the field, participating actively, having wonderful time doing really important, helping scientists do really important research. In fact, through our group at Merlin Tuttle's Bat Conservation, we're going to be, hopefully within the next year, offering opportunities for people like you who would like to, let's say, take a vacation and go to Trinidad or Brazil or someplace and work out in the jungle for a week or two, helping scientists discover things that we need to know to help conserve bats.
You can see that link in the comments to that video. Sharon May, my mom. Hi, Mom. She says, hello from Cleveland. We love bats. How can we attract them to our bat house?
I'm going to talk about that in another session. Tonight I would really like to stick as closely as possible to how young people can be encouraged to go into science. I'd like to say one thing I forgot to say earlier. The one way to keep young people out of science and to keep them out of having fun in life is to start them out in school thinking that school is all about memorizing facts. Nobody is interested in memorizing all the scientific names of all the critters on the planet or all the parts of an animal or learn to do math until you know that there's some usefulness. I wasn't interested in any of these things. In fact, I did very poorly in school. I didn't even learn to read until I was in the 4th grade, but finally a teacher figured out that I was just totally bored with 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade reading books and needed something that was interesting to me. So don't hesitate to get out there and pursue what really interests you.
Dia says, thank you so much for what you do. And Lisa Walter says, I started a program here in Western New York, westernNewYorkBats.org. I'm working with North American bats.
And there are opportunities to work in North America too. Check around at local universities until you find out where the nearest actual bat researcher is. And you know, there are lots of scientists who got help themselves when they were younger, and they, whether you're a child or whether you're an adult, they're happy to have your help. And you can actually go out and help scientists conduct field work. We do that. Teresa and I and Paula have been on a couple trips in the last year where a whole crew of people went out and caught rare bats and radio tracked them back to their roosts, made observations never before made, observations that were critically important to conservation, and we made incredible discoveries and had lots of fun. And you can have fun even if you can't go far away by just finding someone who is interested. And certainly when I was young, one of the key things to my success was that my father had the basic notion that nobody was going to not be interested in talking to him and his son. And he would open opportunities for me to go and visit professors at universities, and I'd ask them about the research I was doing on some small mammal, and I never found a single one that didn't have time to talk to me. Even when I went to the Smithsonian, the head of the Division of Mammals, Charles Handley, took off almost a whole day to show me around and help me learn. The very first time I went to the Smithsonian and said I'd like to talk to somebody who knew about bats. Don't be afraid to seek out people who do study bats, and there's a good chance that they can work you into something they do that you'll enjoy.
Well, that kind of brings us to Sharon May's next question. She said, do you know of any programs or websites that encourage kids in science? Maybe summer camps? That's a good idea.
Happy for your question, Sharon. I'm sorry that I don't know of a particular program to suggest that encourages kids in science, but
I'm sure they're out there.
They're out there, and check out local nature centers and see what programs they have in the summer for kids. That may be a great way to introduce a child to a wide variety of potential things. We're naturally really curious about nature, and it's too bad that so many of us lose that curiosity as we get discouraged later and somebody tells us, well, if you want to study nature, you got to be a scientist and memorize a lot of scientific names and learn math. You got to get kids interested. You got to get interested before you learn these other things. I certainly didn't do well in any of the others until I knew that I had to learn them to pursue what I was really interested in.
Diana, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Citizen scientist is a great way for folks without credentials to do field work in science. She's right. Sharon says, yes to nature centers, thank you. And Lisa Walter says, thank you.
Good.
Bet Turner, Is that your real name? He says, I've tried to no avail to get my city to institute bat boxes as a means of mosquito prevention. Any idea how to convince a city council that bats are beneficial?
That's something I'd rather talk about on a night when we're talking about bat houses, but just in brief, there is no one cure-all for mosquito problems. Bats can be very helpful. There are a whole bunch of things that can be helpful. Find every possible place where there's standing water around your yard. Flower pots, empty dog dishes, wheelbarrows, stopped up rain gutters. Clear those out so that mosquitoes don't have breeding places. And we do have a resource on our website that's all about, it's now being posted, it's all about the role that bat houses and bats can play in mosquito control. They certainly can have an impact. We know we can reduce mosquito populations by attracting bats, but it's just one of several things to do.
So that link is in the comments to that resource page. Fernando says, hello, Merlin.
Hi, Fernanda.
And Sarah says, I have 2 young nieces that I want to encourage in bat conservation. They are in preschool now, and I show them bat videos and adopted a bat for one. What jobs are out there and what degrees are needed for them? What kinds of things can I do now to pique their interest?
Well, first of all, keep in mind that your interest may not necessarily be your children's interest. My mother, as I said, really wanted me to be a medical doctor, and it didn't turn out that way. But it is, there's so much you can do to, it's easy to interest a child in nature. Nature is full of interesting questions. Why does the lichen grow more on that side of on one side of the tree than the other? Why are the certain kinds of insects only in certain kinds of places? There are every kind of conceivable question you can ask. Get them to asking questions and being curious, and you helping them find the answers to their questions. And eventually they're going to find something they're really interested in, and let's hope it's bats. And certainly the more you show them bats and the more you expose them to interesting questions about bats, the more likely they are to go in that direction. And
so what jobs are out there or degrees needed if they were to be interested in bat conservation?
Well, if you look at our citizen scientist video, you'll see documentation that you don't have to have any degree to work with bats. Some people just get so passionate about bats that even though they choose a completely different occupation, they still work with bats. My friend and expert bat conservationist, Daniel Hargraves from the United Kingdom, doesn't even have a degree in biology. He works in the food industry, and yet he takes off weeks every year to go out and participate in bat research, and he's one of the best bat conservationists I know. We don't necessarily have to get a job studying bats to have fun working with them, but certainly if you want to professionally work with bats, it's a good idea to get an advanced degree. And it's a very good idea not to just go someplace and study under a professor who has a certain line of research that he or she is doing and wants to fit you into doing the part of that research that bores them, but they need the answer to it. Find a professor who is doing something that you're curious about that involves bats. For example, you could study under an entomologist and be interested in bat values in controlling crop pests. You don't necessarily have to study under a bat biologist to end up having a career in bat biology. The world is full of opportunities to study many different fields relevant to bats, but I would strongly suggest that if you want to go be employed as an adult, do something that has relevance to helping people. If you do something that has relevance to helping people, And there are several more things you need to learn too. Who are the highest paid people we know? Usually people who are in sports or other entertainment. Entertainers get paid and they usually have secure jobs. If you get really passionate about bats and learn a lot about them, you can be very entertaining telling people about bats. And you will have a much higher likelihood of having a good job studying bats if you can entertain people with bats, and you can also take pictures or do other things to help your entertainment, and you do research that helps people. I don't believe any of us should be out there doing just basic research that doesn't have any relevance to making the world a better place. We have so many critical environmental problems these days. We can do great research that helps solve problems and helps people live healthier. So let's do good research that helps people learn to be entertaining, and you're going to be successful.
So Donna says, National Park Junior Ranger programs get kids engaged in the natural world. That's a good suggestion. Christopher asks, I visited the bat colony in Austin. What are some other big bat colonies? Which that would be a great way to get kids interested, to show them some live bats.
Right. There are a fair number of big colonies here in Texas. There's the old Fredericksburg Tunnel out west of here. There's an artificial bat cave on the Bamberger Ranch that has up to 1 million bats in it now. I'm very proud of it, helped design it. There's Carlsbad Caverns, there's Inner Space Caverns up north of Austin here, where the bats are so tame that they'll allow you to walk right up and watch them during hibernation without harming them. Normally you couldn't do that, but you can because these are so used to people and never being harmed. There are James River Bat Cave out further west in Texas. Most places where you're going to watch bats, if they're big numbers, you're going to probably do it with other people. But when you go on vacation, if you know something about bats, let's say you take a vacation to Latin America, and let's say you're in an arid part of Mexico. If you stay in a hotel where they have agave plants or various big columnar cacti in the yard as decorative plants, if those plants are in bloom, you may be able to sit and watch bats come to them right with the yard lights even on. And I've often shown people bats come into banana flowers. Banana trees are often part of the ornamental plants in a tropical resort, and you can sit with your children and watch. If you're on a tour ship or something in the Caribbean, sometimes you can watch where there's night light shine down on the water, and you'll see big fishing bats with 3-foot wingspans coming in catching minnows. So there are, and let me tell you another thing that you can do that's really exciting for kids. There's a new product just about to come out, and I will be sure to introduce it as soon as it's available, where you can plug an app into your phone or iPad and actually listen to bats as they fly over. Listen to their unique echolocation calls. You can actually tell when one catches an insect. It'll be kind of beep, 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 maybe 10 beeps a second echolocating, and then all of a sudden when it gets in pursuit of an insect, the beeps go so fast, they're 200 per second, zzz, and you know he's catching an insect. If you go out near a street light where bats are hunting, take a bat detector, and your children or students can actually listen to the bat as it approaches, and when it goes into a chase of an insect, they'll hear the zit as it catches the insect. They'll see the wings falling down. I have used to take a lot of people down to our state capitol here in Austin and watch and listen to bats. You can also just go out and shine a bright light on over water, and you may be able to attract a lot of insects in a fairly short time, and that may attract bats. who will feed in the light. And then use a bat detector and let your kids hear them. And there's a new app coming out, being produced by Wildlife Acoustics. We'll be announcing that soon. Where not only will you be able to listen to the bat's echolocation sounds, but you will be able to simultaneously see a picture pop up, and it'll tell you, okay, it's either this bat or it's one of these two species, but at least you'll see what it is you're probably listening to. And that's an excellent way to get young people interested.
Fernando has a question about white nose syndrome, which we will have to address because we don't later on in a future episode. We only have 5 minutes left here on this subject. John has a question. I haven't read the whole thing yet, so let's see. I've earned degrees in environmental science and land surveying, and I'd love to do work in conservation and or reclamation. However, the only jobs I can find where I live are related to oil and gas extraction. Are there groups where a person might develop a few contacts so as to put their education to work in an area in which they are passionate? I've taken several civil service exams, but given the current political climate, not many government agencies are looking for workers in departments such as EPA or DEP.
Well, there are also environmental consulting firms, and if you learn enough about bats, you can be very valuable to a government agency or an environmental consulting firm. First of all, just be interested enough to learn a lot, and you probably can be indispensable. I can say this, in the many years that I have hired dozens of people to work for my various conservation entities, I have never chosen people based strictly on what degree they had. I've always chosen them on what amount of appropriate knowledge and enthusiasm they had. And I would do that even today.
Cool. I'm going to put the link to the oil and gas draft permit proposal so you can maybe see. I might provide some insight
Good.
into
Well, you can almost certainly find a way to have fun with bats. If you are struggling a bit, this new bat detector that's going to be put out by Wildlife Acoustics, I believe is going to sell for under $200, and you'll be able to actually listen to the bats going over, tell when they're catching insects, and see pictures of the bats pop up as you listen to them. That is a hell of a fascinating thing to share with friends and kids.
All right.
I think we're out of our 30 minutes.
Almost.
Almost. Well, we'll have time for maybe one more comment.
That's it. I don't know. The other comments are off topic, so we don't want to delve into something we don't have time to cover.
Well, sorry we didn't get more kids tonight, but don't forget, I do have a new resource up, and that resource on our website at merlintuttle.org is, I think, excellent for young people in helping guide them into how to get involved in science, especially with bats.
And you can share this video.
But the advice I give there is good no matter what you're going to do.
All right.
Okay, good night. I think our half an hour is up, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.